This is your friendly neighborhood atheist. Dude, whenever that music kicks in, it gets me pumped. Like, I'm ready to do this.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome back to The Perspective. I'm one of your hosts, Ethan, and I've got Oz and Martin here tonight. And we tackle paranormal and supernatural claims, conspiracy theories, belief in aliens, pretty much anything and everything under the sun. Belief in God, whatever you want to talk about. Give us a call, and we'll give you the skeptic's perspective. Anyway, Oz, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing fantastic, but I promise by the end of this, I'll get better. How are you?
I'm doing well. I hear you had an interesting call on your call-in show last night. You got to speak to, I believe, Robin?
Yeah. Robin called into our show last night, and I love talking to preceptors, but I don't think they love talking to me. So.
Yeah, they can be a lot of fun. No, not really. Martin, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm honored that you would have me on just to take one call. Sort of a consultation, if you will. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I'll be the first to admit that when there are certain topics that I may not be equipped enough to handle, there are people who are better equipped to handle those conversations. And honestly, I want to tackle these things as responsibly as I can. And for those who don't know, I did get some of the video evidence for those hauntings on a few of those callers last week. After this first caller, we'll go ahead and show them and talk about the ghosts they saw. But anyways, do you want to get to our first caller, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Let's do it to it.
Is it William? Is that right?
Yes. Oh, you're signed in. I didn't know that. Awesome.
No, I'm not. I just remember we were discussing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess I could be signed in.
Will or William?
Either or works.
Okay. Will, you're on with Ethan, Oz, and Martin. How you doing?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Pretty good.
For those who don't know, I saw a Facebook discussion happening on whether or not to wear masks. And usually, rather than going back and forth and arguing on Facebook, I like to just say, hey, call the show and let's talk about it. Because to me, usually we can resolve these problems better when we're actually talking versus, just yelling at each other on Facebook. And as I recall, Will, please correct me if I'm wrong, you are opposed to masks. Like, you don't see the point in them. Was that accurate?
That'd be an accurate statement, yes.
How come you don't see the purpose in them?
Well, we've been a year into this pandemic. Okay, people are sick. Yeah, I get it. But having the 100% of the population wear masks when maybe you should be wearing masks 10% of the time if you're around somebody immune compromised. I think the masks have gone far overreaching what their intended purpose is. And it's gotten to the point now where it's just something else people can complain about if you're not conforming to their likes. I myself think the mask thing, if you're not in one of the target areas, if you're not immune compromised, if you're not vitamin D deficient, if you're not obese, I don't see why they're being made to wear masks.
Gotcha.
Person,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Keep going.
Okay. If you're somebody who's immune compromised, if you're somebody that fits in those target areas, yes, you should probably be wearing a mask, but you shouldn't be worried about me wearing a mask. You should be worrying about social distance. You should be worrying stuff like that. It's more along the lines of what the other person should be doing, not worried about what I'm doing. It just
Gotcha.
seems.
So
yeah,
Martin, before you
go
continue,
ahead,
Will, I just want to let you know there is sometimes a second delay. So if we occasionally talk over each other, interrupt, I apologize. It's a delay between the phone and coming through onto the stream.
Gotcha.
Go ahead, Martin.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of lay a little bit of groundwork here. So so you do appreciate that masks prevent people from catching COVID, correct?
Masks aren't the only, or the breath and covering the nose and covering the mouth isn't the only way you can get COVID. Realistically, we should all be wearing safety glasses that keep your tear ducts from getting the airborne virus. If we wanted to go that far as pushing people to wear masks, why not have something that keeps the tear ducts? Because you could, somebody who can cough, yeah, okay, a mask is going to keep you from inhaling it, but it's not going to keep you from having it enter your nasal cavity through your tear ducts, correct?
See, that's you are correct about that. The tear ducts are, and your entire eye really is definitely an exposed point. However, the mask, what it does is it prevents people who have COVID, who are what's called pre-symptomatic. That means that they have an active, I believe the term is viral load. I just want to open with a disclaimer. I'm not a medical professional. I just enjoy talking about these things, and I like to be well read on them. Basically, when you're pre-symptomatic, you can still spread it. And then healthy young people, such as myself, I mean, I'm 28 and work in a grocery store. I happily wear my mask 10 hours a day because I don't want to accidentally give COVID to one of my coworkers, or even worse, one of my customers. Like, can you imagine if you go to the grocery store and you're 70 and then all of a sudden you catch COVID from the irresponsible, person behind the counter? Like, so that's why I wear a mask. I'm struggling to connect between where you understand that it prevents you from getting it, it also prevents you from spreading it.
Yeah. And now understand, my father is 71 and he doesn't wear a mask. He doesn't wear anything like that. He's along the same lines as me, but he's not obese. He's not vitamin D deficient, and he's not immune compromised. Everything that has come across that I have read, 90% of the people hospitalized have two conditions: obesity, vitamin D deficient.
Have you spoken to a doctor? Has your father spoken to a doctor about this? Like any doctor, but I'm referring specifically to a GP or general practitioner.
My father down in Texas talks to his doctor. I've got doctors who are customers of ours that I've talked to and shared this information. And they said, yeah, it's not a conspiracy theorist, because there are multiple doctors talking about, if you're healthy, if you get out and you either take vitamin D supplements, if you're out in the sun quite often, for you to wind up going to the hospital, it's going to get cut down immensely. So it's not just, and there is stuff out on the medical journal, there's stuff out in the CDC talking about this stuff, but nobody is talking about that.
We're talking about it.
If somebody, you're the first person who has actually reached out, and rather just going full Karen and asking me about why I don't wear a mask, you're asking a question, which I think that's what people need to engage in more, is more one-to-one conversation instead of just going full Karen.
Okay, but it's not just one side doing the full Karen. Sorry to jump in here. It's not just one side doing the full Karen. I completely agree with you that we need to have adult civilized discussions about this. But yeah, I just want to make sure we don't paint it that way, because believe me, I live down in South Florida and I've seen some shit go down from anti-maskers and just complete and total disregard for public health, for the preferences of the businesses in which they're protesting. So it's not just one group of people going full Karen. Everybody is losing their minds, and we need to kind of rail that in. So for your part in this, I really appreciate that you're coming to the table and you're willing to talk to us. So just want to throw that out there and say thank you for that. Now again, what you're saying about immunocompromised people, do you think you can identify an immunocompromised person by looking at them?
Well, you take how many people, you can look at somebody and tell me when they're obese.
No, but I'm talking about immunocompromised. Obese isn't really immunocompromised. It's a medical. I don't want to even say condition. I'm not quite sure what to call it. Maybe it's a condition. Anyway, I'm talking about anybody who would be more susceptible to COVID. That's cancer patients. That's people with HIV. That's any number of immunodeficiencies. Can you identify somebody by looking at them?
Most of the time, yes. Most of the time,
really,
walking around with people that are up here in Washington. There's quite a few people that are carrying oxygen tanks around. People that are
protesting. So it's not.
Yes.
Oh, sorry about that. That was a.
Yeah. What are you doing, Ethan?
That was my fault. I apologize.
That was my voice, but it wasn't me saying it right now. Sorry about that.
I'm sorry.
Now, there are a lot of stores up here that have modified hours for senior citizens. Now, I'm not going to be the guy that goes in there without a mask and just, start traipsing around senior citizens. I give them that leeway because that's set aside for them, which I'm all for. But to just tell me, hey, you have to wear a mask all the time because you have to wear a mask, it's to me.
Okay, well, walk with me for a minute. Walk with me for a minute here, Will, because we kind of glossed over something. You mentioned oxygen tanks. I asked you about cancer patients and HIV, or people who are HIV positive. You cannot identify those people by looking at them. I mean, I'm not talking about people on chemo. I'm talking about people with cancer. It does not physically change your appearance. So if you're telling me that you can identify these people by looking at them, I have to disagree with you. You can identify obese people by looking at them, but that's a very small percentage of the overall immunocompromised people that we're talking about. Also, there are people who have fallen ill with COVID symptoms who do not fall into any of these categories because it's a new disease and it's affecting us in different ways. So I would rather err on the side of caution personally. That's why I wear my mask, because I'm more cautious about my health and the health of others during a time when, this is a public health crisis by definition. We haven't seen one of these really since like polio, and even then, before then, the Spanish flu that actually started in Kansas. I mean, this is the only time in life, in my opinion, when this would be acceptable. If they tried to do this for like swine flu or something, I would have had a different opinion because it was a different disease and it affected people differently. But we're talking about COVID here. You can't identify people who are immunocompromised by looking at them.
Okay.
Symptomatic or pre-symptomatic. And so ultimately, I mean, what if let's use some hypotheticals here. What if I had cancer and I worked in a grocery store? Should customers be allowed to come in without masks? Because I could get it through my eye ducts, but I can't get it through my eye ducts if the customers are wearing masks.
Well, here is my fallback. My father-in-law had a heart transplant 18 months ago. He doesn't wear a mask.
Your father should be wearing a mask.
Wait, did you say he doesn't wear a mask after the heart transplant?
Doesn't wear a mask.
May I?
Your father. Yeah. I know how transplants works. I've had a family member who's had a liver transplant, and you sign documents saying that you will protect your health against certain things. Like when you get a liver transplant, you're not allowed to eat or drink or consume like tobacco or smoke anything for the rest of your life. Like you're supposed to sign something to agree to that. So again, medically speaking, your father should be wearing a mask. However, it's his own health, and I'm sure he has the right to disregard it. It's just there are other people whose health he's disregarding in the process too.
But the problem is it's the information that keeps being pushed out. Okay, so it started off, and I think everybody, when this started back, what are we going on? 14 months now. 14 months when this came out, and everything got shut down, and everybody was worried. I don't know a single person who wasn't just erring on the side of caution, saying, "Hey, maybe we need to pump the brakes here and see what we got." But as everything evolved and more information came out, but then more and more disinformation pulled up, then you get I think some of the numbers, I don't want to say they're all elevated, but they got conjured up because you've got a gentleman who was in a motorcycle crash and perished in Florida there. He got counted as a COVID death, but the crash is actually the.
Can you link me to a source on that one death out of 500,000?
Well, I could send a couple to you. I could send a couple.
I would love that, but do you remember? I mean, I can find it pretty quickly on Google here. Just Florida motorcycle crash, COVID.
So, motorcycle crash, COVID death.
For me, even if the numbers, and I'm not saying they are inflated by some reason, to me, this is still, there's so many unknowns to that I just feel the most responsible thing I could personally do is wear a mask. Like, I can say I am genuinely not scared of catching COVID myself. Like, if I catch it, I'll deal with it. Now, I don't want it, of course not, but I'm not sitting here scared of it. But I am terrified that me not wearing a mask could be the cause of somebody else getting it and somebody else dying. And like, I live with enough guilt in my life. Like, I do not want a death on my conscience. And for me, that's more than enough to be willing to wear a mask, even if I don't like it. What about you, Oz?
The way I look at it is, if we all value each other as human beings, if the one minor inconvenience of wearing a mask over our mouths while we're out in public could probably possibly save one person, why would we not? And why would we push back on it? There's always going to be arguments and people that want to be counter to the status quo, so to speak, or what's being widely accepted. But again, at the end of the day, to me, it just comes back to the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I just don't know how we don't end it. The conversation on that is, let's just take care of each other. And if that's what we think is the best possible way, is it a cure-all? Is it a fix-all? Is it going to stop everything? No, but is it a way to curb or minimize? It's, if that's the best option that we have to do that, then let's do it for each other. That's my view on it.
Will, quick question for you. Where do you typically get your information from?
Looking at different sources, talking to different people, a lot of it has to do with when all of the medical questions come out. I got two customers that are doctors. I've got friends who are nurses, friends who are it's not a general practitioner, but it's along those lines. And I ask them questions. Big thing that a lot of it is relayed to me that I've actually asked them, okay, if this virus is so dangerous and everybody's wearing all these homemade masks, crocheted masks, fabric masks, if the virus is so deadly and you're coughing into it, where are all the hazardous disposals to dump these masks in? The other thing I see is all of these masks being littered around. But
but remember, masks are the new cigarette butts right now. I mean, you still see cigarette butts littered around everywhere. Yeah, listen, I'm with you on a couple of those things. I mean, I definitely think you shouldn't litter. Littering to me is about as offensive as not wearing a mask in a place where you're supposed to be honest, because it's just complete and total disregard for public health. And I notice I said in a place you're supposed to, meaning like when I go into a business, I only go into that business if they have a mask mandate. I don't go into businesses that don't have mask mandates, so I'll never run into somebody not wearing a mask. So I don't have to deal with non-maskers. I mean, I quit my restaurant job because there were 2 outbreaks in the same restaurant within 3 months of each other. Like, not wearing masks is causing outbreaks. So And you know what? There was an obese person on staff who ended up in the hospital, and he ended up getting, I believe it was a $63,000 medical bill. The dude's in his 30s. He's going to be paying that off for the rest of his life. And so for me to have to wear, sorry, I'm going to conclude real quick, and then I'll pass the ball back to you, Will. For me to have to put on a mask, that is such a small tax or inconvenience or whatever you want to call it, because it is inconvenient. And yeah, there are ways where you can handle it unsafely. I mean, if you're touching your mask a lot, then yeah, you're spreading those same particles that you're blocking with the mask, spreading them onto all the things that you touch. So coupled with mask wearing, you're supposed to wash your hands. At my place of work, actually, because you mentioned tear ducts earlier, there are certain positions where you have to be around customers, like self-checkout, where the person is actually, part of their uniform is to wear a full face shield and a mask. And that's just simply to prevent the risks, so they can safely go within 6 feet of a customer and have, I think it's like a 3% transmission rate at that point, something like that. The number that I've heard for masks is it cuts it by about 80%. I think the full face shield is closer to like 97, 96%. But anyway, back over to you, Will. I said a lot there.
I actually do have one quick question.
Sorry, go ahead, Ethan.
And this is for, I guess, anyone. I have always wondered that too. Do COVID masks need to be disposed of in a special way? Like, does there need to be a hazardous material, like
no
special bag?
The virus dies after 2 to 3 days on fabrics. Leaving it out in the open where it can absorb sunlight, I believe the UV radiation theoretically kills it faster. I haven't seen studies done on that, but that's the consensus that I've seen. What I do is I throw my fabric mask in the washing machine, and we know detergent, will wash away any viruses or anything that's on it before it comes out. And then also the heat from the dryer kills pretty much anything too. So yeah, that's what you're supposed to be doing. Now, Will has a great point. Are people doing that? Probably not. Probably not unanimously. However, it's still better than doing absolutely nothing, because doing absolutely nothing results in absolutely nothing.
Okay, we'll go ahead.
Here's so they were talking about people not coughing, people not sneezing on other people, covering your hands, washing your hands. Now, COVID or not, I think that's what society should be doing regardless. But
I got some stories for you about restrooms at restaurants. People don't wash their hands, my man. They don't, and then the server picks up the plate, and then if the server doesn't wash their hands, you're eating off of a plate that was touched by somebody who touched somebody's plate who touched their dick, or whatever.
As somebody who worked in...
not only that.
As somebody who worked in the food industry, I did have my health department certification at one point, and when I managed a restaurant, while I was very laid back in many ways, when it came to cleanliness and following guidelines, I was so anal. And it would drive me nuts how I would occasionally see people touch food and not wash their hands. It's like, do not touch somebody else's food or plate unless you have clean hands. If you rub and this is before COVID, if you rub your nose, mouth, or anything, you need to wash your hands with soap before handling a customer's meals. Will, go ahead.
Absolutely.
If you guys are in the food industry, watch a movie called Waiting. If you've been in the food industry, you'll laugh. You'll laugh at that movie because that's.
I'll be sure to look for it. Definitely.
The realm you guys are going to. Yeah.
You haven't seen Waiting, Martin?
No.
Oh, Oz. Seriously, dude, guys. Yeah. All right.
Are you from food and beverage too, Oz?
No.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't matter. It is a good movie. It's got Ryan Reynolds. It's before he really took off.
Ooh.
And it is, unfortunately, how some people operate. But I totally recommend that movie. Anyways, back to the conversation.
Yes.
But so talking about the cleanliness of just other people. Now, when all of this started up here in the Washington area, you had these poor high school kids that were supposed to be wiping down all the shopping carts and stuff, and they had the squitsy bottles. None of that has been going on in the last 6 months. They've got a self-serve deal with a communal bottle and paper towels and rags. And
are you talking about Are you talking about private? Sorry to cut you off, Will. I just want to make sure. Are you talking about private businesses?
Yeah, like I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Red Meyer or Safeway.
Yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Safeway for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had a kid. His job was when the shopping carts got brought up, they wiped all those down because they wanted all to get the COVID cooties off of them. You know, everybody got the warm and fuzzy feeling. All right, yeah, I can go shopping, but now it's that eagerness to keep everything clean is gone out the window. I go to my post office to get my PO box, and every week it smelled like they let bleach bombs off in the place. Now it's kind of come back to the norm. And mind you, the Pacific Northwest was let's just call it what it is, the epicenter of the start of all this, with the senior center that experienced all the deaths. What would that be? Early January, early February of last year.
I don't remember the specific case you're talking about, but I don't doubt you. So I want to make a point, actually. So it is in a business's interest to save money whenever possible, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's probably why they're cutting the sanitation, is because they don't want to pay the extra hours when the business ultimately isn't going to be harmed by COVID, because even if 3% of the population dies, I mean, 90% of their customer base is still alive. So ultimately, they don't really want to take the expense on dealing with it. And I've experienced that through 3 different employers during COVID.
Yeah. And
it's disgusting. It's completely, I'll call it greedy capitalism. I mean, I'll call it what it is. They're trying to save money, and they're putting us at risk.
Well, but people die on a given day from many, 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 many things, not just COVID.
Right. But COVID is the new thing that we're trying to prevent from spreading to everyone. I haven't gotten COVID yet. It's because I've worn a mask. I can promise you that. I've worked in places with COVID outbreaks. I didn't get it. The people who did are the people who don't wear masks in the break room. Trust me. Like, I know.
I've got friends. I've got one friend out of Indiana. She had it, spent time in the hospital, and is all better now. I asked her,
that's awful, but I'm glad she's okay.
Agreed.
I have friends that have tested positive for COVID. Do you know when you had it? I think I had, the term I use is the sniffles. That's what they said. I feel like I had the sniffles for a couple of days, and then I'm fine. Okay. And it's the point I'm getting at with the mask is it's gone far too long. I don't think the masks are as helpful as what they think. And what's to say next? Oh, well, obese people get it. We're going to stop allowing you to have sodas and eat fast food and eat this and eat that.
I don't think that's related at all. I really think that's a straw man. If you could show me somebody who's arguing that, I would argue with it, but I don't think anybody's arguing that right now.
So we do have to wrap up in just a moment. So Oz Martin, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Go ahead, Oz.
Yeah, I just had one, maybe 2 questions. One, Will, if at the end of the day, this is again, the best deterrent or the best way to keep the numbers of deaths down, why would you not do it?
Because I see a lot of hypocrisy on the people that are saying this will keep deaths down. But then you got people like the governor of California eating in a restaurant when restaurants have been closed down there. They're just eating in a restaurant, and they catch him, and then he says, "Oh, I thought it was an outdoor diner," but he's got a chandelier above him. You got people like the governor of New York who says you need to wear a mask at all times, even while you're outdoors. And here he gets caught walking outdoors without his mask.
William, you know what? You are absolutely right about those two examples.
Yeah.
And I think that just goes to show that the more wealth and power somebody has, the less in touch with reality they tend to be.
And well, it's not
Because you're citing two governors of states. I mean, that's like the only thing higher than governor, really, as far as elected office, is president. Right? They control an entire state. So I think you're absolutely right. This hypocrisy from them is disgusting. But one person's hypocrisy. So the person in front of you doesn't use a turn signal. Does that mean that you don't have to use your turn signals now?
Well, it's up to me if I want to
No.
use turn signals or not.
No, it's not, actually. You sign a contract when you get your license that you will always use your turn signals. So does the person not using their turn signal enable you to not use your turn signal? I think the correct answer is no, but I'll let you answer again.
Well, but then more examples. You get
Why are you arguing that it's okay to follow hypocrites? Because you just cited those men as hypocrites, and yet you want to take the same actions as them.
Well, I don't tell you need to wear a mask and then don't wear a mask. I just don't wear a mask.
So you're
Okay,
doing the
fair
very
enough.
same thing.
Yeah, but you're doing the same thing as them. So they're worse than you because they say you should and then don't?
But I'm not saying, oh, we need to wear a mask to help flatten the curve. I'm just saying, hey, I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm not telling you you got to be wearing a mask, and then you see me down the road and I'm not wearing a mask. I'll tell you, don't wear a mask. You wear a mask. I don't care. It don't bother me if you wear a mask.
The fact that you don't care is coming through very strong right now.
So, Oz, I think you said you had one more question, or no? Did I miss?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, Will, with that in mind, your example of the two government officials not wearing their masks getting caught, is that still, or are you believing that maybe some of the numbers are skewed? Is that still a justified reason to believe that it's okay to not wear the mask that could help save your life or the person next to you's life? And does that, is that justified? And if it is in your mind, how have you justified that? Because that's what I'm trying to get down to.
Well, it's not just those instances. It's conversations I've had with medical friends. It's conversations I had with just people around. So what do you think? And it's the thing I get is it's not just I'm not going to wear a mask. It's just a culmination of all the information I've taken in. And is COVID bad? For some people, it could be fatal. Okay, yes, I've said that. People that are vitamin D deficient, people that are obese, people that are immune compromised. I'm neither of those three, but you're trying to force me to live my life around a small little segment of the population.
It's not a small segment of the population, sir. It's everybody over 65 and everybody in those categories. Death rates over 65, I don't have the numbers on hand. They're significantly higher than the under 65 community. Now, you just identified that your parents, or at least your father, is over 60, and the other one is almost there. And I wear my mask for them. I don't wear it for me. It's called doing something for someone else. And Ethan, with respect, I think I'm going to leave this conversation now. So, Will, I appreciate your time. Have a great day.
Thanks, Martin. Will, thanks for taking the time to call in and speak with Oz, Martin, and myself.
No worries.
All right.
You guys have a nice day.
You too. Well, that was a fun one.
That was more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. It was, and honestly, I wish I had a medical professional available that I could have called in specifically for this call. But I thought, Martin did much better than I could.
Martin was a beast.
Hell yeah. I forgot to do something. Before we get to our next caller, I totally got more fitting artwork for the show. Bam.
Bam. I like that.
There we go. Yeah. Now it's scary. Anyways, all right. We've got a couple callers. First one up is Haley. if I'm reading this correctly, you want to know what atheists are doing to promote world peace?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a pretty peaceful dude. I talk about my friendly is in my name, so I am actively trying to promote positive skepticism and friendly discourse, or as I
don't need
call
positive talk about peace, bro. I don't want people to think I mean rainbows and holding up peace signs and standing in the street protesting. I mean, what are you doing to protect creation from these evil things lurking in our reality that are here in modern day times, not back in 2000 the fuck years ago when Christ was born?
Sorry, so what evil things? And you referred to creation, but
Let's start with just one thing. Let's start with slavery. We have fractional reserve banking in place, which makes us debt slaves. And then we have maritime admiralty law, which makes us collateral. So what are atheists doing to expose that truth to the public?
What does atheism have anything to do with that?
Nothing, really, to anyone today.
What does atheism have anything to do with that? Atheism only refers to a lack of belief in God.
Yeah, so does Satanism. I'm asking what you people personally are doing to collect yourselves as a collective and do something for world peace.
Well, and I think what Ethan is asking is, how do we, before we make an impact there, we have to know what the connection is between atheism and world peace, or Satanism and world peace. I don't know. I don't get the correlation.
That.
Okay, so real quick, Haley, we got to make sure, Haley, we got to make sure we're not cutting Haley, we have to make sure we're not cutting each other off. So please give the host or myself a chance to reply before you start speaking.
Sure. Sorry, I have schizoaffective disorder, so I'm not always the best at like conversations. But I have a very different understanding of world peace than other people. That it takes more to protect it than just holding hands and saying unity. That there are people out there seeking to destroy world peace at every corner that we take to mend it. And I'm just wondering, are you aware of these people? Are you looking at morality in the Bible and saying, well, that's just a stupid story, or are you learning from it?
Well, I don't see any relevance in the Bible at all. Like, I don't believe it's true. And I really wouldn't take morality lessons from something that typically oppresses women and minorities.
Yeah, that's if you're reading it that way. But if you read it correctly, your morality lesson should end that you should never scapegoat on the devil or silence him out or make him a black sheep or blame him for your evil problems. Human thought processes are pushed to create murder and rape, not fantasy land bullshit. And I understand that atheists and Satanists have very similar beliefs, but I know that Satanists are trying very hard to make themselves known publicly, and it's just as hard as atheists in conversations, but we are in danger for our lives, still pushing our beliefs. So why do you think that we are doing that if the Bible means nothing?
Well, yes, the Bible to us as atheists is irrelevant, and it's not that we're I don't necessarily push back on the book. I'm not pushing back on the book. I'm pushing back on the doctrines, the religions, and the bad ideas and the bad beliefs that are birthed or born from that book. If we didn't have all that attached to that book, nobody would care about that book. But so much damage has been done because of the religions, the dogma, and all of the other bad shit that's come out of it. So it's not just the book.
That's not true, because people in this day and age spread just as much evil shit with their voices and their ability to speak their opinions. So how are you banishing?
I don't disagree with what you just said. Yeah, there's still plenty of batshit crazy things that are made up now. It's just that we have a book that's existed for 2,000 years that people have used to do damage and to control and manipulate and even psychologically control human beings.
We've used Ouija boards just as long.
Okay, So, but I don't see nearly the damage. I don't see people raping and molesting young boys and girls in the name of a Ouija board.
I don't know what people are doing with Ouija boards, man.
Well, just if you want to send me some links with some evidence, I'll read it.
His mistake.
Sorry, what was that? Hello? Okay, well, I guess they dropped. Hopefully that was a confusing call. Like,
yeah, that might be one of more of the different call-in shows I've done. That might have been a little different.
Yeah. All right. Well, the real question is, Oz, are you ready for this one? I have a special one just for you.
Let me take a drink. Let's do it.
Oz, I would like you to meet Chris. Chris Oz.
What's up, Chris?